She's the friend who'll show up with coffee or wine when you need it most. But probably wine. Good vibes are on the way. Welcome to Erin O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency.
Hi, welcome back to Erin O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency. I'm Erin. It's great to have you here. So, of course, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. So this episode is going to be pretty much all about great things that we are thankful for. And first, I'm thankful that you're here and that you have been following me on this journey that I just began in April and I'm having the time of my life with. I find good people who are doing great things and making the world a better place. And I just love that kind of positivity. I feel like we need way more of it. So thanks for being here and soaking this in before you go to the Thanksgiving dinner table and desperately try not to talk about politics or religion or anything else that will ruin the meal. Question, are you at the big kids table yet? I remember being a kid and just desperately wanting to sit at the grown-up table. And then I finally got there. And let's face it, there's only a couple ways to really get there. Either you move to somebody's house who has a bigger table, or unfortunately, people start dropping off, meaning like there's a divorce or somebody got married and now they go to a different person's house, or God forbid, somebody's just not with us anymore. But I just remember being so excited to get to the big person's table, the grown-up table. And then I found out it was kind of nowhere near as exciting as the kids' table. The kids' table was where it was at. It was always way more fun at the kids' table. But hopefully you have finally made it to the grown-up table and you can see what I'm talking about. You have to make it fun. It with the kids' table, it's just automatically fun because most of the time, depending on how old the kids are, you're kind of just trying not to get grossed out and not to get hit by any kind of food. But as far as things you shouldn't talk about tomorrow, I think we can all figure out what those are. But here's a story that can bring joy to pretty much anybody that hears it. And maybe you remember it. It started back in 2016. There's a woman named Wanda Dench. She was trying to text message her grandson to remind him about what time dinner was for Thanksgiving at her house. And she didn't get her grandson. Instead, she got a total stranger named Jamal Hinton. And so Jamal texted her back and said, this isn't your grandson, but can I still get a plate though? And Wanda texted him back and said, of course you can. That's what grandmas do. We feed everyone. So 9 years and 10 Thanksgivings later, these two still have every Thanksgiving meal together. Is that so remarkable? Not only did he go over there in 2016, and the thing is, this made national news. It just blew up. He put it on social media, and people could not get enough of this story because it's just so wholesome and kind and reminds you of what Thanksgiving is all about, just that gratefulness and bringing people together. And so yeah, Jamal went to Wanda's house for that Thanksgiving. And here we are many years later, and they are still doing this. They've become great friends. They call each other family now, which again, is just, it's so beautiful. Jamal was 17 years old, a senior in high school, and they really have been through a lot together. Last year, they had to actually do their meal online. They checked in with each other through, it was Instagram Live, I believe, because Wanda was diagnosed with breast cancer last year. And so she wasn't really able to travel. She had lots of treatments and things like that. But I'm so happy to report that she is cancer-free. A warrior just like myself who got through it, and I'm so happy for her and grateful that she and Jamal getting back together this Thanksgiving. Tomorrow they will be celebrating at Jamal's house this year. I think they live around 2 hours from each other in Arizona. I actually reached out to Wanda, but as you can imagine, they get more requests at this time of year to come on different shows. They've been on the Today Show and Good Morning America. I mean, I've seen them everywhere. They were on with Jenna Bush, I want to say 2 days ago. So, yeah, they're very, very busy this time of year. Maybe next year I'll try calling in like maybe October to try to get them on the Feel Good frequency. But I just love that story. So if you're looking for a good one to tell that I think will make everyone smile and is not controversial in any way, that's the one that I'm recommending for you. So with Thanksgiving being tomorrow, I have made many, many calls to food banks. I've spoken with people who are helping out, and they're perhaps busier now than ever before. And this includes COVID, which kind of surprised me because you'll remember there were so many furloughs during COVID. So many people were not getting paychecks and just hoping that things would shake out. And it took a long time for that to happen. And food banks are busier now than they were during COVID. And yes, one of the questions that I was asking and statements I was making to these people I was speaking with was, hey, but SNAP is back now, right? One employee of the Greater Boston Food Bank pointed out to me that the S in SNAP stands for supplemental. And one woman that I met, she gets $150 a month through SNAP. That's it. $150. I spent way more than that the last time I went grocery shopping earlier in the week. And that's all she's getting for the month. So there are so many of our neighbors, our friends, people maybe you don't even realize that could be 2 doors down from you that are trying to make the decision on the regular about whether they're going to pay for rent or groceries. They're going to get food or prescriptions, things like that, that really we should not have people worrying about that in 2025 in America. It is an awful thing. So local food banks are absolutely essential, not just this week, but truly every day, all year long. So yes, we've got SNAP back, but maybe you didn't know, as I didn't, how little that actually provides. It's great that it's there and it's back, but it's not nearly enough to feed all the people that need to be fed. And here's the thing about food banks and soup kitchens. They cannot run without volunteers. So many of them rely on volunteers every year, which brings me to my guest today, who is so kind to take time out of the busiest week of his year to come on the Feel Good Frequency. I am super thankful. So I am here with Jason Barker, who's having the busiest week, and I'm so grateful that you took time to say hi to me because you are the volunteer coordinator for My Brother's Table, which is a soup kitchen that has been in operation since 1982.
Correct.
That is very impressive. And I read that just since 2020, you've provided over 5.8 million hot meals to people in need.
That's both hot meals and lunches.
Wow.
But yes, that's the number. We got crazy busy when COVID started for probably obvious reasons, and things just never kind of slowed down from there. It was a big turning point for the organization in terms of just how much food we served and how many people we served.
It's pretty remarkable. I was thinking about the fact that with COVID, it had to have just exploded at My Brother's Table. Are you more busy now than you were during COVID?
Yes. And, we, being a soup kitchen, we kind of kept the COVID protocols going longer than most because we were sort of working on like a clinic kind of model of safety. So we weren't really done with that approach until around 2023. And the other big change during COVID was that, for obvious reasons, we had to close the dining room. We couldn't have people coming in to eat, and the city said we had to stop right then and there. So basically in 24 hours, our director, Diane Kuja Hills, had to turn us into a to-go soup kitchen.
I was going to say, what'd you do? Oh my gosh.
So that essentially happened overnight. It was a work in progress for a few months, but we got that into a working system. And then once COVID finally passed and we remodeled our dining room, we went back. So many people had come to rely on the to-go model that we didn't want to end that. So we're now a hybrid model. People can eat in or take meals to go or both.
One of the great things that came out of COVID is the fact that you're able to do that. And the fact that you figured out a way to still make sure that all of these people were fed in a time when we were all just so sequestered from each other is really, it's just a testament to how amazing everyone is there and how seriously you all take making sure that these people eat. Because I read that some people, this is the only nutrition that they get in the day.
Yeah, a decent number of our guests eat both lunch and dinner at the table pretty much every day. Another subset of people, so we always say that it's hard to generalize about how busy we are at different times, but the one thing that is always true is we get busier as the month goes on. So there are people who have the resources to support their food needs for part of the month, and then they run out. And so as each month goes on, we always are busier at the end than the beginning because of that. So there are some people who can manage without us for part of the month, and there are others who basically rely on us the entirety of the month.
That really makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that, but it makes so much sense because, again, maybe in the beginning of the month, you have some funding that you can allot to different things, but as the month goes on, money gets tighter and tighter. So that really is eye-opening. And you couldn't do this without your volunteers. You have, did I see over 1,500 volunteers per year?
More than that. So we are basically completely volunteer driven. We have a pretty small staff, most of whom are part-time. So there's usually 2 staff members on for any given shift. But the shifts need between 6 and 10 people to operate properly. So we have 3 shifts every weekday and 2 shifts on the weekends. So if you add that up over the year, it adds up really fast.
Oh my gosh. Thank God for the volunteers.
Yes, indeed. People are often surprised. They kind of think they're going to come in and help around the margins. And they're usually often a little bit surprised that, oh, wait, no, we're like doing all the stuff. So people who come in to volunteer, they go right to work, right interacting with the guests or making the meal or serving the meal. That's really all done by volunteers. So we are truly a volunteer-driven place, not just a place that uses some volunteers to help out on the margins.
Right. And while you are a 501c3, I did read that you get no help from the government. Everything that you do is funded through private donations or through businesses.
Correct. Or grants, although not government grants.
Or grants.
The founding idea of My Brother's Table was that it should be a place where anybody can just walk in the door and get food if they need it. And if you take government money, that comes with a whole lot of strings. You have to gather data on the people. You have to screen people. You have to, log who comes. And, there's a certain percentage of people who would be scared off by that. And so the mission, that was the word I was looking for earlier. The mission here is to be able to just have whoever needs anything to come to the door. There's no questions asked. There's no screening. We don't take their name. We don't take demographics. And so the only way to maintain that has been to be privately funded by donations. And our executive director writes a lot of grants, which, as you said, often come from businesses. Like we had a grant last year from the Cummings Foundation, for instance, and things like that. So, yeah, that's where all the money comes from. It's amazing.
That really is blowing me away because I never thought about the fact that if it's funded by the government, all of those things are needed and you've got to report all these things. And like you said, there are plenty of people that don't want to do that aren't comfortable doing that. And the last thing you want is people not to come in who desperately need to because of all the strings attached.
Exactly.
God, that makes me love your place even more. So what would help most as far as what people can do for My Brother's Table? Is it monetary donations? Do you take donations of food to help with ingredients for whatever you're making? How can people help?
Yeah. So, as most nonprofits say, money is generally the best thing because what's needed at any given time can shift so quickly. But almost all of our food comes from the Boston Food Bank and is sort of bulk kinds of food. So one of the things that I certainly didn't know until I started here is the kind of divide between a food pantry and a soup kitchen. So at a food pantry, things like a box of mac and cheese and a can of Campbell's soup are really helpful because people are going to take those home and cook them. In a soup kitchen, we focus on prepared food that mostly goes to people who either don't have a kitchen or don't have a kitchen that they can use. The numbers of people who live in kind of a rooming house situation with a shared kitchen who say that the kitchen is just awful and disgusting and it's just not usable. So even some people who technically might have a shared kitchen are not inclined to use it. So the food we give out here is all prepared. So the biggest kinds of donations we get for food that are super helpful are actually snacks and desserts, because that is something we get very sporadically from the food bank. And, it may not be the healthiest part of the meal, but everybody likes a dessert and a snack. So
sure.
to the extent we can, we love to always give a dessert with each meal. And that's tough when that's not a bread and butter kind of thing we can count on from the food bank. So we have a lot of people who make homemade brownies and cookies and cupcakes for us, or they'll buy stuff at stores and donate things that way that we'll give out. But our day-to-day sort of the meals and the sandwiches, that's almost all from the food bank. And, with we're serving over 1,000 servings a day, it's not really realistic for a private individual to donate enough food for that to be like a meaningful part of an entire meal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If we do get things like canned goods and stuff that we can't use ourselves, we do have some ability to just put stuff out on the table for the guests to help themselves too. And that's always a nice treat. We do like getting those things, but we only have so much ability. If people have like a pickup truck worth of canned goods that they collected, we're not a good place for that because we just don't have the bandwidth to store and hand it out. So that sort of thing is really good for a food pantry.
Thank you for explaining the difference, because I honestly wasn't sure of the exact difference either, except I knew you had hot meals, and I know that food pantries have more like box things, like you said, but that was such a good explanation. I really appreciate you getting into that so people can really understand the differences, especially if they want to help. You're always looking for volunteers too, right?
And we're always, yes, this time of year, we get a lot of help because, it's in the air, it's on people's minds. So if people were to look at our sign up site today, they might say, oh, geez, there's not much room. I guess they're doing good. And that's very true. But as soon as mid-January hits, it's back to the baseline, which is a little more hard scrabble in finding enough volunteers day to day. We have quite a lot of inertia here because we've been doing this so long. But there are times a year, especially back to school time, beginning of summertime, when people's schedules are changing and they don't feel like they have as much free time on their hands, that get tough for us. And we really have to scrabble a bit. So this holiday stretch is actually a really good time for us on that front. But the rest of the year, we are indeed always looking for volunteers.
And that is something I'm definitely pushing in the show today, too, is that around the holidays, this kind of thing is always on people's minds. We're grateful for what we have. We want to share it with others. We want to help out others. But to be able to do that, especially in times when the volunteers aren't standing in line waiting to get in, it's so crucial to keeping places like yours going. So yes, volunteering anytime is a wonderful thing. But if you can volunteer at a time when there aren't people standing in line to get in to volunteer, that is the most helpful too.
Right. Exactly.
MyBrothersTable.org, correct?
That's our website, and there is a link to the volunteer Sign Up Genius site on that website, so you could access it that way.
That is perfect. You're open every day.
Yes, we are open from 12 to 3:30 for lunch, which is generally sandwiches and soup, and then 4 to 6 for the hot meal, which is always like a protein, a starch, a vegetable, like, exactly what you would hope a hot meal would be. And then on the weekends, we're only open from 2 to 4:30, and we just serve the hot meal. We don't do the lunch on the weekend. I don't think it's true that we've never closed a day, but I think it goes back to the late 80s to find the last time we were closed.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. That is incredible. And that is so necessary and needed. There are so many places that I was looking into, and as far as where I can send people, especially locally, that are only available a couple times a month or once a week. And the fact that you are open every day, you're saving lives. You really, really are. So thank you for what you do. And you said that there are people that come in for lunch and dinner. So can you tell me maybe a favorite person of yours or a favorite story of somebody that you've met? Obviously no names or anything like that, but that has had their life changed by what you're doing. Yeah,
that's actually an easy answer. So there's a guest who's been coming in for 20 years now, and he used to live right down the street. And he not only would come in every day to eat, but he would sit in the dining room. He would draw. When we were closed during COVID, he didn't have that anymore. So he would come and just kind of hang out in the office because he liked to talk to the people there. And we really were kind of his social support system for him. He's a really special guy. We don't have the ability to go quite as out of our way for everyone as we would for him. But yeah, he's the first person that comes to mind who really means a lot to us here at the table. And clearly we mean a lot to him.
You mean a lot to many. So thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for what you do all year long. And I so appreciate your time, especially the busiest week of the year.
My pleasure, Erin. Thanks so much for getting in touch.
Oh, you bet. What a wonderful human. Thank you so much, Jason. Busiest week of his year, and he took time to be on the Feel Good Frequency, and I am truly grateful. One of the things that we were chatting about is how volunteers are always needed in all of these organizations. And if you don't have the actual time to volunteer, they're always looking for food or monetary donations. And the thing that I found out by making all the calls I made to different food banks is that with monetary donations, they can buy in bulk. So that goes a long way. $1, $10 to you might not seem like a lot, but they can make that go very far by buying in bulk. And that helps all of those food banks. And this Tuesday coming up, it's Giving Tuesday. Remember hearing about that? Perhaps you have lots of friends hitting you up for donations to whatever causes that they feel passionately about. This is the day that you're going to get bombarded. And it is a global day of generosity is what they call it. And it's held yearly. It started back in 2012. And it is always the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Just in the U.S. alone, donations on Giving Tuesday last year record smashing $3.6 billion with a B. That is unbelievable. Now, along with your local food banks, I have tons of suggestions from guests who have been on the Feel Good Frequency so far. Donations are a tax write-off. Yes, but most importantly, you've met these people that I have had on since I started this in April that are 501c3 official charities that you can donate your money to and know that it's going to go to where you want it to go. So you can pick any of the episodes and help out one of the many wonderful people that have been on the Feel Good Frequency with me already this year. And I'm grateful to every single one of them. I'm thankful for all of them. And I am super thankful for you. Thank you, really, truly, from the bottom of my heart for hanging out with me and making this just something I look forward to every single time I turn on the microphone. Sincerely. If you know somebody who you think would be great on the Feel Good Frequency, tell me about them. Because again, still one woman show. So I can use your help 1,000%. It is ErinO'Malley'sFrequency.com. ErinO'Malley'sFrequency.com. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving and a great week.